Hello, this is David Heine of Aspect Art. Today we're going to be talking with Jeroen Giltaij at Boijmans van Beuningen in Rotterdam. Now that's a difficult thing for an English-speaking person to say, so we'll just say we're at Boijmans for the Dutch Classicism. Now Dutch Classicism was born in Haarlem. We're standing in front of one of the paintings by the first purveyor of Dutch Classicism, Grotius. Now, this is an altogether new look at what was happening in the 17th century. A lot of it hasn't even been seen, many of these painters completely forgotten. So join me now for Dutch Classicism in Rotterdam. Jeroen, perhaps you could tell me, while we stand in front of one of these beautiful classical paintings, what exactly is Dutch Classicism?
Well, it's a style we know from architecture, mainly. Classical architecture is well known from the 17th century, but it's also a style in Dutch painting, and we present this for the first time. We try to present it because it's a difficult subject. But when you walk through the exhibition, you'll see what we mean. Those artists had a great interest in classical antiquity, of course, but they developed a certain style which was used for official buildings, especially a very colorful style inspired on classical antiquity with very classical compositions, with people who seem to come from the past, who look very much like Roman sculptures. And so far it was not known that, I mean, we know that, for example, from French 17th century painting, that there is a classical style that's well known all over the world. But that you have these features also in Dutch 17th century art, of which we know landscapes, portraits, etc., was not known so far. So it's a kind of investigating exhibition.
Well, as I look around, I think of Dutch 17th century. We oftentimes think of these black-robed people with stiff collars, but what I see are a lot of very sensual, almost erotic paintings. Was this kind of the other style of Dutch 17th century?
Yes, well, it's interesting. We opened this exhibition at the same time as the self-portraits of Rembrandt in the Mauritshuis in The Hague, and we called our exhibition The Other Face of the 17th Century. It's a kind of opposite of Rembrandt, because it's very colorful, very erotic, you can easily say, where you see with Rembrandt these very strong contrasts of dark and light, the people coming out of the dark more or less. Here you hardly see any shadow at all. It's just a very stiff, almost building up of the composition with marbles but also very joyful. They're very, very happy paintings, I think. And it's amazing that we could borrow 3 paintings of the palace of Huis ten Bosch near The Hague. It was a design of Jacob van Kampen, who asked those painters who he thought could have a classical style, and these painters made these huge paintings for the Oranje Zaal, Huis ten Bosch. And when you walk around there, it's almost one style, and that's a kind of painting which is hardly, those people are almost forgotten nowadays. Like Cesar van Everdingen, we are standing in a room full of his paintings. He's presented, in fact, for the first time in history. And he was apparently so famous in the 17th century that he was asked to help with the decoration, but nowadays forgotten. And that's for many of the painters we present here. Salomon de Bry, Pieter de Grebber, Jan de Bry. Hardly known painters, but who were very famous in their time.
Classical styles oftentimes idealize the human form. I notice as I look at some of these paintings that you can still see the Dutch girl in some of these models. Could you talk about the style itself, the Dutch classicism, and how it differs from those that might have been in Italy or, well, for that matter, Belgium?
Well, I think they really tried to create a kind of international style. I think they were well aware of what was happening in France, and everybody knows Poussin as the great classical painter. And maybe they try to do something like that to be international. But yeah, the moving aspect is, I think they still are so Dutch. And that was also something they said to Rembrandt. He painted a nude, but you still could see that it was his girlfriend, so to say. It kept as realistic as possible. And the painters here try to be more idealistic, but they didn't really succeed in creating a kind of French classicistic style.